Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm going to be giving you guys my top 15 films of 2023. This is a completely subjective list. There are tons of films that I did not see this year. If any of your favorite films from 2023 didn't make the list, please let me know in the comments. I would love to know which ones I missed, which films I didn't get to see. I will shout out a few honorable mentions, films that didn't quite make the list. TMNT, Nimona, Missing, Evil Dead Rise, Saw X, Scream, The Creator, Flash, and Indiana Jones definitely weren't making the list. Air and Tetris. All of those were good films to different degrees and didn't quite make my list this year. I will also shout out The Sound of Freedom. That was an awesome film. It just barely didn't make the list, but it's a little bit heavy. It's a true story about child trafficking, so I'm sure that's not for everybody. But it is a really powerful film that I think maybe not all parents should watch, but it's definitely an important film. And I will also say that Poor Things did not make my list just because I didn't see it yet. If I had seen it in time, it probably would be in the top 5, just knowing the director and the cast, William Dafoe, Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, and the director. I can never say his name properly. It's like Yargos Lath. I'm not even going to try, but I love that director. And that film is getting great reviews, so I'm sure that film would have made my top 5. I just don't want to rank films that I haven't seen. And I have ratings out of 10 for the films on this list, only to show you guys kind of where the gaps are in my mind. These aren't like definitive ratings for the movie like forever. It's just for this year's list, I'm giving a few out of 10 rankings to kind of show you guys where the gaps are in my mind for these films. I hope that makes sense. But with that all out of the way, let's get into the top 15. So, at 15, I have The Covenant by Guy Ritchie. I thought that this was just a weaker Guy Ritchie film. It's still really good. Jake Gyllenhaal's awesome in it. It's a really good war film, solid. There's just so many better war films out there, in my opinion, and it's one of Guy Ritchie's weaker films. So for me, it's at 15. At 14, I have Creed 3. I really liked Creed 3, honestly. I thought the brother relationship was cool. The anime-inspired fight scene at the end was awesome, and it was cool to see Michael B. Jordan direct a film, especially Creed, film that he's starring in. So I thought Creed 3 was awesome. It's just hard to compete with, the original Rocky films and films like Raging Bull. They're just such great boxing films. It's hard to live up to that. So Creed at 14. At 13, I have Extraction 2. The only reason why this is higher than the previous two films is that one-shot scene. Seeing that for the first time blew me out of my chair. I instantly rewound the scene and watched it a couple times because I was just in awe of how they pulled off that one shot. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. It's in the prison, and that was mind-blowing. So that scene alone got this film on my list, but the story's lacking a little bit, but you have to know what you're there for, right? Like, you're there for the action. You're not really there for the story, but the story is, fairly weak, very generic. So that's why Extraction is a bit lower on my list. So 13, 14, and 15, those last 3 films I mentioned, I would all give like a 7 out of 10. I think they're really solid films, films that I probably would go back and rewatch at some point, but they're not anywhere on my need to rewatch list. So, yeah. Getting into number 12, I have Infinity Pool. I would give this one like a 7.5, just a step up from those previous 3 because of the concept. It was a very unique concept. This was done by Cronenberg's son. I forget his first name, but David Cronenberg's son made this film. It has Skarsgård in it and Mia Goth. Mia Goth is tremendous in this film. Her and Skarsgård are just, they kind of carried the film acting-wise. I mean, everybody in it's great, but like, holy, their performances were awesome. And I thought Infinity Pool was one of the most thought-provoking horror films I've seen in quite a while. So I have Infinity Pool at 12. At number 11, I have just a slightly better horror film, a directorial debut by 2 brothers out of Australia. Again, I'm blanking on their names. I'm sure somebody will remind me in the comments, but it's Talk to Me. This was a really, really cool concept film. I thought the beginning and end, the way that they kind of paralleled each other was brilliant. Just the whole film, there's a lot to talk about. I might do a full analysis video in the future on this movie because it's an awesome directorial debut, especially for a horror film. You rarely see horror films this good, period, let alone as a directorial debut. So Talk to Me at 11. Give that one a 7.5 as well. And my other 7.5 film, I would give to Beau is Afraid. The reason why this is above the two previous films I just mentioned is just purely because I love Ari Aster. I love the way he makes films. Hereditary and Midsummer are some of my favorite horror films of all time, and this film's quite weird. It's I don't exactly know how to explain it. I don't know if I would pitch it even, because I don't think this film's for everybody. Most people that watch this film that I know were like, "What was that?" and they didn't really have any second thoughts about it. But I thought Beau is Afraid was tremendous. It was brilliant, and Joaquin Phoenix is, this might be his best Joker performance. It's kind of like a Joker performance, honestly. It's similar to the role he played in the Joker, and it's just a off the walls movie, man. It's kind of reminds me of 12 Monkeys in some ways, but even crazier. Yeah, Beau is Afraid is something else, but that's at my number 10. So those last three films I'd give like a 7.5, just slightly better than the first three I mentioned. At number 9, I have my only 8 that I would give, and I would give that to Guardians of the Galaxy. I know a lot of people would probably have this a bit higher on their list. I'm just getting exhausted from superhero films. I was so on board for the first few phases, and now it's getting to a point where I'm like, come on, I want to see something else on screen. So, but that being said, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is a tremendous film. Arguably the best Guardians of the Galaxy film. Arguably the best soundtrack too. I thought the use of Dog Days Are Over was just perfect at the end of the film. Lots of good feel-good moments. Really awesome story. I thought the way they told this story was arguably better than in the comics. And yeah, I think I did a full review on Guardians of the Galaxy earlier in the year, so you guys can go check that out for my full thoughts on this film. But just a really, really solid entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Probably the best Marvel film of the year, with the exception of one, which I'll get to in a bit. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 at number 9, and like I said, I'd give that probably like an 8. And these next 3 films I'd give all an 8.5, because in my head they're kind of all in the same stratosphere. So at number 8 I have John Wick 4. The reason why this one's a bit lower than the other two is because I am just getting a little bit sick of the whole John Wick franchise. Don't get me wrong, John Wick 4 is awesome. The action scenes, the stunts are the best they've ever been, but he's just killing hundreds of people now. And like the first John Wick, you had the connection with the dog dying, and like every kill was like, yes, you felt it. And now it's getting a little bit like Call of Duty. Like people are just dropping everywhere. It's still sick, don't get me wrong. It's still some of the best action I've ever seen. It's like up there with Raid. It's amazing, but I'm just getting a little bit, dulled to the killing, and that kind of sucks. So I don't know if they're gonna do a John Wick 5. I kind of would like to see it stop here, but yeah, I got John Wick 4 at number 8. At number 7, I have The Killer. This might be controversial having this over John Wick, but I really liked the way that David Fincher got into the head of somebody like John Wick. Like if you took a character like John Wick, somebody who just kills coldly and doesn't really think twice about it, what would that person actually be like in the real world? And it's brilliant the way that they go through this film. I already did a review, so you can kind of go watch that for my full thoughts again. But I thought this film was brilliant. And besides a couple scenes being a little bit too dark, like you're not able to like see anything that's happening on screen. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. But aside from like a few nitpicks like that and the ending being, a little dull, I thought this film was fantastic. One of David Fincher's better films, I think. I mean, all of his films are really good, so it's hard to say that actually. But yeah, at number 7 I have The Killer. At number 6 I have the best of the 3 action films, I think. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. To me, this was like the most fun, the most exhilarating action film I saw this year. It was just, the stunts were amazing. The concept was super cool. I did also cover this film. Go watch that review. But the way that they were able to make this feel almost like a concept film, almost like it had like some Inception, Tenet sort of ideas happening. That was awesome. I don't want to spoil the film for those of you who haven't seen it yet, but Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning might be the best Mission Impossible film, and that's saying a lot. This is a very strong franchise, and I think that this is one of the best entries. One of the most emotional entries, that's for sure. So without giving too much away, I think that Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning is up there, and I'm excited for part 2. I really am. I want to see how they conclude this. Getting into my top 5, these top 5 films, I think, for me, are kind of above everything else, personally. One of these is going to be very controversial, but at number 5, I have The Boy and the Heron. This could have been my number 4. Number 4 and number 5, I could probably switch, but any given day. But The Boy and the Heron really blew me away when I saw it in theaters. I saw it in IMAX, so that helped. I saw it in the original Japanese, so I haven't seen the dub yet. I'm excited to listen slash watch the dub version because the cast is amazing. But walking out of The Boy and the Heron was, I mean, I went with a huge group of people, like 14 people, and everybody was like so confused. They were like, what did I just watch? That was so trippy. It was kind of like when you first watch Spirited Away or Paprika, and you're like, what did I just watch? So I love movies that can do that, but after further thinking about it, this movie is very, very deep, and I am going to do a full analysis video on this sometime in the new year because it's somewhat fresh, and there's a lot of depth to The Boy and the Heron. I really think it's like a top 5 Ghibli movie. I wouldn't put it above like Spirited Away personally. Might take a few rewatches to say that, but I do think this film's going to age very, very well, and I think people are going to consider it one of the better Ghibli films because, like I said, it's very deep. I loved this film, so I'll leave it at that for now. At number 4, I have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the other great animated film that came out this year. Probably the best Marvel film I've seen in quite a while. Just the animation in this, it's been said a million times, like, holy, they went all out. Bringing in different styles of animation, having animation going on in the background, colors bleeding into the walls and stuff, things that don't need to be there, but they add so much. And every shot feels so lively. And there's so much life to this film. It's amazing. And besides it being a little bit of a bridge film, you know, you get to the end of the film and you're like, ugh, where's part 3? Besides that, that's my only critique. This film is like perfect. It's a perfect Spider-Man film, a perfect Marvel film. I don't really have any complaints about Spider-Man. It honestly could have been my number 1 film of the year if it weren't for 2 other films that I think are just so special. I'll get to in a second. But yeah, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, one of, if not the best Marvel film I've seen, and maybe the best Spider-Man film I've seen also. So awesome film. Really, really loved that one. At number 3, I have the controversial pick. Some people love this movie. It seems like a lot of people don't like it, and that's unfortunate because I actually did like it. Now, I said in my review for this film that I need to see the 4.5-hour version first before like I really put it up there. But I know, I'm confident in Ridley Scott that when I get the 4-hour version, I'm going to love it even more than I already loved the 2.5-hour version. And of course, I'm talking about Napoleon. Yeah, it's a bit of a controversial film right now. Some people don't like the way that they had so much emphasis on the Josephine relationship. I thought it was fine. As somebody, like I've said before, who's studied Napoleon quite extensively, I know quite a bit about him. He's one of the most interesting people in all of history to me. And I thought this film did a great job at showing that. I thought the cinematography was absolutely amazing. Maybe the best cinematography I've seen from Ridley Scott. I thought the acting was, low key, but still very well done. And I thought they showed Napoleon as somewhat of a human, instead of just showing him as this brilliant tactician who never loses. There's some cracks and some chinks in the armor, and that's cool to see. I could go on and on. I did in my review, and I'm sure I'll make more videos in the future about this film because I'm happy it exists. I'm happy it's there. I'm happy we got a big budget Napoleon film to get people interested in this part of history. The Napoleonic Wars, the 20 years of history. It's impossible to cram that into a 2-hour film, let alone a 4-hour film. I think you need 20 hours at least to tell this story. And for Ridley Scott to somewhat pull it off, even somewhat pull it off, is a tremendous accomplishment. So my props to Ridley Scott. I thought Napoleon was great. I have it at number 3. And I would probably give Napoleon and Spider-Man and The Boy and the Heron all like 9s out of 10. I'm going to get flack in the comments for that. I know it. I know people are not liking Napoleon, but I'm going to defend it. My top 2 are definitely 9.5s. You could probably give them both 10s, honestly. And they are far and away the 2 best films of the year, in my opinion. I think all the Oscars, all the Academy Awards are going to these 2 films, most likely, and for good reason. At number 2, I have Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin Scorsese. First film we get Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, and Martin Scorsese all together for. That's awesome. Lily Gladstone is amazing in this. The story is long. It's a 3.5 long, drawn out story with not much action, pretty much all dialogue, and very cold storytelling too, I would say. But holy, does it pay off at the end? I made a video saying, stating that I think Martin Scorsese's best scene he's ever directed is in this film. You can go watch that video and hear me make my case, but I truly think this is one of his biggest achievements, even at like 80, 85 years old. Like, I forget how old he is now, but he's getting up there, and he's still making amazing films of this quality. It's incredibly impressive, and definitely the most emotional film I've seen this year, and just a special piece of cinema. Really, I hope it runs away with a bunch of Academy Awards. Unfortunately, there's one other film that came out this year by a director who is on the same level as Martin Scorsese in my mind, and released a film that blew me away. When I first reviewed it, I said it might be a top 5, top 10 film ever made. I still think, depending on the day, maybe I still stand by that. It's definitely a top 100 film ever made, in my opinion, and that is Oppenheimer by Chris Nolan. That is my top number 1 film of the year. I think it's going to be a lot of people's, and for good reason. It is, wow, it is the best biopic I've ever seen in my life. And if you consider Lawrence of Arabia biopic, I think that's like the closest thing to Oppenheimer, but holy, does he put you in the head of Robert Oppenheimer. He makes you feel what that man felt in a way that I've never seen done before. And the eye acting from Cillian Murphy, like the acting with the eyes, is tremendous, like Mifune level eye acting. It's crazy how deep into his head you get just from the subtle acting in the face by Cillian Murphy. It's brilliant. I hope he wins Best Actor. I really hope he does. I hope Christopher Nolan wins Best Director, because this film is beautiful. Even though it's like his most toned down, least action film he's ever done, it is powerful. And I saw it in IMAX, so that does bolster my viewing experience a bit. Like I've said, it's probably a top 3 movie experience I've ever had in my life. When the bomb goes off in IMAX, like it shakes everything. You can hear it from outside of the theater. It's tremendous. I had such an amazing experience watching this film. Yeah, it's special, man. It's very special. I think it's like a top 4, top 3 Nolan movie ever made. And that might not sound like much, but when you're talking about the greatest living director of our generation, this is an impressive feat. And I can go on and on about it. I already made a review on it. And yeah, Oppenheimer is, I think it's definitely the best film of the year, personally. You guys can let me know in the comments if you guys disagree. I'd love to hear somebody argue Killers of the Flower Moon over Oppenheimer. I think that would be an interesting debate, because those films are close in quality. Just to me, there's something about Oppenheimer. I don't know. Like I said, it might be the IMAX experience that I had with the film, or it might just be how brilliant Cillian Murphy was, or it might just be how little fat is on this film. It's like the most tightly written script I think Nolan's ever had. There's not one word of wasted dialogue in the whole film. Absolutely brilliant. So Oppenheimer's number 1 for me. But let me know in the comments what you guys thought. What was your top 5, top 10 films of the year? Which films did I miss? I know I missed quite a few. I still haven't seen that Past Lives movie, the Korean movie. A lot of people have been raving about that. There are a couple films that I didn't get around to seeing quite yet. But let me know in the comments what I'm missing out on, what I should go watch, what I should review next. Yeah, thank you guys for watching as always. It means a lot. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help boost this channel in the algorithm. I'll catch you guys in the next one, and peace.